work as an apologist while wrestling with the church, how much do you find that means that you don't really talk too much about the church, and when you're evangelizing or talking with people outside of the church, how does that impact how you share the gospel?
Well, I don't really bring the tension that I have with the church into a front conversation with somebody I don't know.
Of course, yeah.
But if they bring it up, like, so if we're talking and they find out that my husband's a pastor at a church, or I just say something about it, like, hey, we're at this church down the road. Then sometimes people will say to me, oh yeah, I used to go to church. That's not for me. And then I'll ask them about that. Now, if they bring up the hypocrisy in the church, that's where I can say, yeah, I struggle with that too. Mm-hmm. That's where I can bring that in and say, but for me, I couldn't let the behaviors of the people be the litmus test for the truth of what I believed, because there's a lot of stuff I couldn't believe then based in just people's behaviors. So, that's where I bring it together for the person. And usually they actually, every time that I've talked about it, they go, oh yeah, I get that. But the problem is that the experiential side of apologetics, the side that has to deal with the fallout from all of these issues with the church, that's just so hard to get past. I talked to a guy for 4 years who was like, he could argue better for God's existence than I could at the end of it. Yeah. And he wouldn't come to Jesus. Like, he's like, no. And so finally he's like, what's keeping you away? And he wouldn't tell me for I think it was a year. And then all of a sudden one year I just saw him, a friend pointed out that he had posted my road to Damascus. He had posted this note on Facebook where he'd become a Christian. And he talked about the emotional pain and the trauma from churches in his background. And that was it wasn't the intellectual side. It was this. And that's no small thing, right? And a lot of times we think if we just give people answers that they'll come to Christ, like that we just need to answer their doubts, or even for kids in the church, if we just inoculate them, if we just give them the answers, they won't leave. Life in a fallen world is really hard. Mm-hmm. And there's no guarantee that people are not going to step away, even if they know rationally it makes sense to believe in God, that it answers a lot of questions, or that it seems more to answer more questions than it poses problems. They still might walk away just because it is so experientially difficult to do what is good and right and true in the face of all this evil and pain and suffering.